And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to we are now going to rank the teams in the NFC West. So I'm going to continue my rankings of each division from after the NFL draft. So let's get into that. So I do have a graphic for this. So let me just pull that up as well, because I know I've been doing that lately when ranking the teams, just so you have the teams in front of you. So yeah, here's the NFC West. You got the 49ers, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. So let's get into the rankings now, shall we? So at number 4, I do have the Arizona Cardinals. And, last year they did surprise some people with some of their wins. I mean, earlier in the season they beat the Cowboys at home, which no one expected. But, they had Josh Dobbs starting. They traded him once Kyler Murray was on his way back. I know Clayton Tune started a game for them against the Browns, and they just couldn't generate any offense. But then Kyler Murray came back and, did play well. I thought he did okay. And the Cardinals are committed to him. And they went out and they got Marvin Harrison Jr., who was arguably the best receiver in the draft. They also went out, they actually did sign Zay Jones as well recently to add to that receiving core, because that receiving core was a little thin. So they did that. They also did draft a running back as well, because, James Conner's getting up there in age. So, you want to have his heir once, they let him go, whenever that is. But, yeah, so, I mean, for me, I think the Cardinals, for them, I mean, the other teams I think are just better. Now, when you look at the Seahawks and their quarterback situation, I mean, I kind of like Kyler Murray over the quarterbacks that the Seahawks have, but the Seahawks to me are just a better overall team. So, but with the Cardinals, I mean, a player I really like from the Cardinals is Trey McBride, their tight end. He had a breakout season last year. They got a real weapon there at the tight end spot with him. And, yeah, now they got their number one guy with Marvin Harrison Jr. The Cardinals, a couple years ago, they made that trade to get DeAndre Hopkins to give Kyler Murray a number one weapon. Now he's no longer there. They went out and they got Marvin Harrison Jr., who was like I said, arguably the best receiver in the draft. So, they got him a weapon. And like I said, they added Zay Jones. So, the receiving core, like I said, before the draft, it was a little thin, and we knew that was a position they were probably going to address in the draft, and they went out and did that. And now let's see what they do now in year 2 with Jonathan Gannon as the head coach. And I think the Cardinals will win more games than they did in 2023. How many games did they win? Did they win they won 5, I believe, right? I might be wrong, but let me double check. They won 4 games. I think they can win more than 4 games. Now, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year, but I think they'll definitely win more than 4 games. If they got Kyler Murray healthy for the full season, I think they should win more than 4 games. But I still have them ranked last in the division. So then at 3, I got the Seahawks. And, this is a new era now. There's no more Pete Carroll. It's now Mike McDonald, who they got over from, who came over from the Ravens, defensive-minded guy. And I do like the Seahawks roster. I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, you got a nice trio of wide receivers in DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Running the football, you got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So I like the offense for the Seahawks. And, they got a defensive-minded head coach, so you think the defense is going to, still be a solid unit. They did bring back Leonard Williams, the Seahawks, for the defensive line, so that was huge. I know Witherspoon, their corner, he was solid for them last year. I know he had that, what was it, like a 100-yard return or whatever it was off of Daniel Jones in Week 3 on that Monday night game when Daniel Jones got sacked 11 times. But, yeah, the Seahawks, I like their roster. I just feel like the quarterback position is going to hold them back a little bit. But it's going to be an interesting competition, because it's going to be a competition in my opinion. You got Geno Smith and Sam Howell, and I don't know. For me, maybe I just am a little too optimistic with Sam Howell, but I think Sam Howell, if he gets the starting job, I think he could be good for the Seahawks. I mean, he did get off to a good start with the Commanders last year, and then things just kind of fell apart, and he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. But I feel like Sam Howell could really push Geno Smith for the starting job. And I feel like he might be the better option because we kind of know what Geno Smith is at this point. And I give Geno a lot of credit. You know, he got drafted by the Jets, and it didn't really pan out there, and kind of has been a backup this whole time. And then, 2022 comes around, Seahawks trade Russell Wilson. They get Drew Lock in that trade, but Geno Smith wins the starting job, and, they made the playoffs with Geno Smith. But last year kind of took a little bit of a step back, was hurt, and, well, now Drew Lock's not there. Now it's Sam Howell, like I just said. But, I think Geno, he's a backup. But he can start games and he can win them. And the Seahawks, that was a good situation to end up in. And I feel like whoever starts, I mean, the Seahawks are going to be a competitive team. Because I think with their roster, I mean, they should be able to compete. Now, I think the other two teams, the top two teams, the Rams and the 49ers, I think they're better. Because, you look at the quarterback positions and, well, I mean, the 49ers just have a loaded roster top to bottom. The Rams are trying to rebuild their defense now with Aaron Donald not being there anymore. So, I just like that's why I'd probably rank them at 3. But I'm curious to see the quarterback battle between Sam Howell and Geno Smith. But at 2, I got the Rams. Last year we had some surprises. We had Puka Nacua, had a great season. Kyron Williams ran the ball effectively for them. Matthew Stafford had a solid year. I mean, for me, the Rams, I think, are the second best team in the division. You get a healthy Matthew Stafford and that offense. I mean, that offense is going to put up a lot of points. And I thought bringing back DeMarcus Robinson was a good move because he played well for them to be their number 3 wide receiver behind Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. So, and the Rams, they, drafted guys on the defensive side of the ball because, I mean, they lost Aaron Donald, so, and it's not going to be easy to replace. So, I think, because I think that was the issue last year, losing to the Lions, is the defense. I think if the defense was able to get more stops in that game, I mean, maybe it'd be a different game. And obviously the defense is not as loaded as it was when they won the Super Bowl. But, for me, with Sean McVay and Stafford being healthy, I think this team is the second best team in the division. And I expect them to be in the mix for one of those wild card spots. And then the number 1 is, of course, the 49ers. And, they're coming off of a tough loss in the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about them, the next segment when we talk about Dre Greenlaw. But, I expect the 49ers to be the best team in the NFC. I mean, they got pretty much everybody's coming back. I know Eric Armstead, I know they had to let him go. He's with Jacksonville now, but, you still got Bosa on the defensive line, and you got Fred Warner back there, one of the linebackers. And then, of course, on the offense, I mean, it's arguably the best offense in the NFL with Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and, of course, Brock Purdy. So and Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I know people have their criticisms when it comes to him because, he's come up short a lot of times in big games, but I think you still have to say he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. But I just still think the 49ers, they got the best roster here, and I expect them to be a very good team once again in 2024 and, being at least in the NFC Championship game. But, so those are my rankings. So you got the Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, and then the 49ers at 1. That's how I rank the division going into 2024. So, and that's actually the last NFC division that we'll do. We're going to move over to the AFC tomorrow. But let me know what you guys think. What would your rankings be? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we will talk more about the 49ers. We'll get into talking about Dre Greenlaw and, some comments that he made, about the Super Bowl and getting hurt during the Super Bowl. So we'll get into all that when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.